Before I tell you who I am, I want to ask you something. Have you ever walked into a room and felt like you were the most qualified person in there, but somehow you were also the most overlooked? Or have you ever watched someone get promoted over you and you knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that you were more capable, more prepared, and more ready than they ever were? Or maybe you're on the other side of that table. Maybe you're the leader and something in your organization is quietly breaking. And while you can't quite put a name on it, you feel it every single day you clock in. If any of that hit, you're in the exact right place that you need to be right now. My name is Angelia Malbrew, and this channel exists for you. So, who am I? I'm glad you asked. That's an amazing question, my friend. I am the CEO and founder of Angelia Malbrew Consulting. I am the luxury brand and business elevator. I'm a platinum award-winning speaker. I'm an MBE Certified Consultant with Buy Black certification. I'm a Google AI certified professional. I'm a Fortune 500 veteran with 14 and a half years of experience in organizational development, change management, and executive enablement. I spent another decade in luxury hospitality, showing up, the VIP way. I'm a former treasury board for the Bold Business Organization Resource Group. I'm also the author of the No Access Protocol. If you're trying to get yourself to the point where you can stop being an emotional dumping ground for people, this is the book for you. I am a cancer survivor. I was dismissed by 6 doctors before the 7th doctor stepped in and helped to save my life. Now, I said all of that not to read all the credentials I have, because when I tell you there are a list of credentials I could have named here, we'll stop there. But I said all that to say this. The last part is not background information. That is the lens through which I do absolutely everything I do. Because what I experienced being in that hospital room, being dismissed, being minimized, and being told that what I knew was wrong about myself, my body, and everything I was thinking, that was somehow incorrect. I had already been watching the same thing happen inside corporate America for over a decade. Now, let me just tell you this. Brilliant people are dismissed every single day. And I decided a long time ago that I was going to do something about it, because if I sit back and I know that there's something that I can do to make a change and I don't do it, then who am I to sit back and complain about anything? You have to get up and make a change. This channel is part of that something. Now, before we dive deep, I want to take you back to my corporate years. Let's go way back into time. I spent 14 and a half years inside some of the most recognizable organizations in this country. Fortune 500 environments, big rooms, big stakes, and big titles on the doors. And while I sat in a lot of those rooms, I had the opportunity to watch what really happened when leaders were promoted for what they could produce as individuals, and then placed in roles that required them to lead other people. That's a big mistake. I watched what happened when a brilliant technical expert became someone's manager and had absolutely no development, no tools, and no framework for what leadership actually requires. The team suffered, the culture suffered, the high performance, the one with the most options, guess what they started to do? Quietly update their resumes and quietly start to post out. You know what posting out is? Posting to other departments. That's what happens when leadership decides to make a change and it's not the best change for the company and the organization. And do you know what the organization said about all of this? They said it was a compensation problem or an engagement problem or, get this, a communication problem. No, it was a leadership problem every single time. I also watched what happened to the high performers who were too good at their jobs. The ones that were so capable, so emotionally intelligent, so competent that they became the person every single person leaned on. You know, the leader who processed their stress out loud in every meeting. The colleague who needed you to manage their emotions before you could do your own work. The organization that was so dependent on a handful of exceptional people that when those people left, and they always eventually left, everything else started to unravel. You see, I watched that cycle repeat itself over and over and over again. And guess what I did? What I always do. I took notes. And 14 and a half years later, I'm still taking notes. Because I knew that one day I was going to do something with what I had seen. I've always been one who loved to figure out how to make a process better. I guess process improvement has been my thing my entire life. I just didn't know what that looked like at that point, and I didn't know yet what that moment would finally push me toward doing at this stage of my life. Was I going to start in the doctor's office? Or should I take everything I saw in corporate and do something in corporate? Well, you did give me permission to take you back, right? In 2014, I was not well. My body was fighting. I knew something was going wrong. I knew it. Like every fiber in my being was letting me know something is wrong. I knew something was wrong to the point where my body started to yell at me. I could feel my body in a way. If I had to explain it, it was something that I couldn't fully describe with words, but it was almost like an out-of-body experience. But any woman who has ever been dismissed, hear me and hear me clearly. You are not alone. You are not alone. I knew how it felt to be pushed to the side and told that, oh, you're overthinking this. Oh, it's not you. Maybe you're working too much. Maybe you need to take a break. You're too tired. Your schedule is too chaotic for you. Coming from someone who had worked 2 jobs, multiple years, back to back. And I'm not talking about, oh, this job is part-time. No, 2 full-time jobs where I get off from one job, have just enough time to go home, take a nap, take a shower, and be back at work in just a couple of hours of sleep. I knew what my body was able to do. So being at this place and space where I was working this job, I was taking a nap by my second break. Well, excuse me, my first break, my first 15-minute break required a nap. My lunch, it was an hour. I would sleep 30 minutes. The other 30 minutes, I was taking a nap. And then when I got home, guess what I had to do? Take another nap in order to function. So when I tell you my body was screaming at me in ways that I can't even begin to fathom now. Like literally just going back, thinking about what I was experiencing, the way I was feeling, I knew something was terribly wrong. So of course, you know me, I went to look for answers. The first doctor told me, oh, you're fine. You just need a break. You need to take some time off. Okay. The second doctor told me, girl, you just stressed out. It's the job. You just moved to Arizona. So there's a few things your body needs to get in alignment with. The next one told me, oh, you need to change your lotion. Maybe that's why your skin is so dry. You need better moisturizers. You live in a desert now. You have to do more to moisturize your skin. And I'm knowing that couldn't be wrong. I mean, that couldn't be farther from the truth, because one thing about me, I'm going to have the best products to put on my body. I'm definitely going to take a bath in the best soaps. And so I knew she was lying. The fourth one ran some tests and told me, oh, you know what? The tests are inconclusive. We have to do that biopsy again. Oh, no, we're not. You and that devil are a lie. I'm not doing those tests again, because if you've never had a biopsy, you have no idea the pain, the stress, the trauma that you go through doing a biopsy. Biopsies are no fun, especially when they're taking a needle about this long, sticking it in your neck. Do you know how many risks come along with that? Absolutely not. I made it through that. I will never do it again. The fifth doctor, came in and told me, well, let's go and see what the other doctor said, right? He essentially took my number down and told me, hey, we'll call you back. I don't think it's anything to be concerned about. You know, no one checked my thyroid. No one asked me all the symptoms that I was having. I was literally going into doctors where they were sitting on one side of the room looking at a clipboard. Now, I'm not sure if they're hearing me or not. Clearly they weren't, because I don't think I would have had to go to so many doctors if they were listening. If doctor number one was listening and telling me, oh, well, you're not losing your hair because something bad is happening. You're just stressed. It happens to women all the time. Okay, now at this point, we're 5 doctors, 5 opportunities to find what was wrong, 5 dismissals. Oh, and the 6th one, guess what? Yeah, he missed it too. Let me tell you something. By the time I got to the 7th doctor, I refused to go back to a general practitioner. I refused to go to another doctor that would send me home and tell me, oh, just go take some time from work. I refused. So you know what I did? I decided to take matters into my own hands, and I booked a surgeon. I refuse to go to another doctor to tell me nothing is wrong with me. That 7th doctor, he didn't run a blood test. He didn't do anything but stand behind me and listen to my words while he felt my neck for abnormalities. He helped to save my life. The 7th doctor, who looked beyond the surface of what the tests were showing, looked beyond the inconclusiveness, because again, he didn't even review the test. He didn't even ask me what was the name of the last doctor, and oh, he works at an amazing clinic and he knows his stuff and he's been in this industry for a long time. He didn't do any of that. He heard me. He trusted my knowledge and me listening to what my body was telling me. And do you know what he did? He did something that I have never had a doctor to do in my entire life. He knelt down beside me and he looked at me in my eyes and he told me, there is definitely something wrong, and I will never waste another moment of you going from doctor to doctor to doctor. We're not wasting another day of your life. Let's go get this taken care of. He walked me to the front, talked to his receptionist and told me, or medical assistant, I'm sorry, and told her, go ahead and get her on the calendar. We need to get her booked for surgery as soon as possible. So mind you, I didn't have time to panic because this was on a Wednesday. By Monday morning of the following week, I was headed to the hospital to have my surgery at 5 o'clock in the morning. The 7th doctor who stepped in to help save my life, I cannot thank him enough, because there are not enough doctors out there like him that look beyond the coat, look beyond what statistics say could be wrong, and actually listen to the client. Actually listening to what your patient has to say. That spoke volumes to me, because finally, I felt like I had been heard. Now, I sat with that for that weekend because I didn't have time to overthink it. I didn't have time to panic. All I knew was this was a very critical thing. This was a very serious surgery, because anytime anyone is cutting your neck open, there's a chance something can go wrong. So I had to sign off on all the waivers about, if something should go wrong. And I had to think about in that moment, what am I going to do? Like, what if this does not work out? What if I don't make it out of that hospital room? What if I don't make it off of that table? That's what I had to think about. And so now, as I'm filling out these papers, and I started to think about me at the age that I was at that time. Now, mind you, I was in my 30s at that time. And I was thinking about, what if I don't live to see 40? Will I be just like my dad? Because my dad never made it to see 40. He passed away, unfortunately, at the he didn't pass away. My dad was murdered at the age of 39. And I'll talk more about that later on. But I had to sit with questions. What if I had stopped at doctor number 2? Or what if I would have stopped at doctor number 3? Or what if I would have just listened to doctor number 5 and ignored everything my body was saying? Would I still be here? What if I had believed the people who were supposed to know better than me? But I also sat with a different question. How many organizations have a 7th doctor moment, and it never created the conditions for other people to hear it? How many times is the voice in your organization that sees what everyone else is missing? How many times are they dismissed? Or how many high performers have walked out of your company because the culture told them in 100 subtle ways that their contributions were not welcome? Well, that question became my mission. And that question is why I do this work. And that question is why, even after everything that happened next, I kept going. And I decided not to give up. Because after the diagnosis, after, sitting there waiting for my doctor to come in that morning, I knew beyond the shadow of a doubt that it was bad, but never in a million years would I have imagined him to sit at the edge of my bed and hold my hand and tell me, "We found cancer." After all of that, after the recovery, and mind you, after the initial cancer was removed, the cancer spread, and so I had to fight it again even harder, because you know what? Once the body is opened up, the cancer spreads, and that's what happened to me. It didn't spread to one spot, it spread to 3 spots within my chest. I've been fighting for my life my entire life. So this was a different type of battle. After the moment where everything became clear about what actually mattered, I went back to work. Do you understand me? I realized something that I had been dancing around for years. Now, the system was not going to fix itself from the inside out. Let's be clear. Because we do things at big companies to make it look pretty on the outside. But what happens on the inside when your people are taking time off of work because they're overstressed, because the capacity management has failed them? What happens when you have a team of people that are not doing what they're supposed to do, so it causes more work, more stress, more pressure on the other teammates? What happens when people go to work? And we all heard about this incident that happened a few years ago when one of the co-workers at this company, not a company that I work for, and I'm not going to name the company out of respect of the deceased, but this person went to work and she never went home. What happens? You see, the organizations I've been at 14 and a half years, they were not going to suddenly start developing their leaders differently because I was in the room advocating for it. Things had to change, and the change that was needed was going to have to come from the outside, because see, sometimes you can only do so much from the inside. So I made a decision. I walked away from being a corporate employee, and I started to build something on my own. I built Angelia Malbrew Consulting. I built myself as the luxury brand and business elevator, a consulting practice rooted in simple but radical belief and movement. You see, there's a thing called great leaders, but here's my philosophy. Great leaders are not born, but they are built. That executive presence is not a personality type. Like, you can't go and do a strengths finder test and figure this out. This is a developed skill. That organizations that are willing to invest in their leaders' identity are not just performance. They're not just performance based. They are the ones who retain the best talent, the ones who produce the best culture, and the ones who build the most enduring legacy. And I built a framework to make that happen. I call it the LEAD framework. And it's the foundation of everything I do. So let me tell you specifically who this channel is for and what this work is for. If you're an executive or senior leader who has been wondering why the presence you project in private doesn't seem to translate when you walk into the boardroom, I'll work and walk with you. If you are a chief people officer or VP of human resources who is watching your best people leave and your engagement scores fall, and you know that the issue is leadership, but you can't quite get the organization to buy in, to address what's really happening and take it seriously, I work with organizations like yours. Let's work on it together. If you are a high-performing professional who has spent years being the most capable person in the room, and the rooms that you're in keep overlooking you, and you are finally ready to accept and understand that this is actually happening and what to do about it is a little bit of a blur, I work with you too. And if you are a startup founder or entrepreneur who's building a business and you want to make sure that the brand that you're building and the leader that you're becoming are operating at the same high level, I work with you too. You see, my work takes on several forms. I speak on stages, keynotes, leadership summits, women entrepreneur events, women's leadership conferences, and corporate events where organizations need a message that does not just inspire people. Oh no, I don't do rah-rah speeches, but actually change how people are showing up the next morning. And if they decide to come back to your team versus posting out and going to another company, I consult with organizations walking in, accessing what is broken in leadership pipelines, and delivering a strategic roadmap that closes the gap before it becomes a crisis. I host workshops, intimate, high-quality experiences that develop executive presence, leadership identity, and the kind of authority that changes what often happens in rooms when you walk in, and absolutely what happens when you walk out. And on this YouTube channel, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm going to show up with frameworks, the straight talk, and the kind of honest leadership insight that I know and I wish someone would have handed me when I first started navigating corporate as a high-achieving Black woman with more competence than access. This channel is that resource, and it's 100% free. Now, before I let you go, I want to say one more thing to you. If you watched this video and you felt something shift, any part of your story showed up somewhere in there just like mine, that feeling is information. And it's telling you that the gap you've been sensing between where you are and where you were built to go is closable. And I want to help you close it. The next step, if you're ready to have a real conversation about what that looks like, is a strategy call. You can book me directly at angeliamalbrew.com. This link is in the description, and more information about me in the comments below. It starts with the conversation. It always starts with the conversation. Subscribe to this channel if you're ready for more conversations like this. New videos will be dropping Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. Share this video with someone in your network who needs to hear it today, because chances are you already know who that person is, right? I'm Angelia Malbrew, dismissed by 6, heard, helped, and saved by the 7th. And by God's grace, I'm still here. I'll see you in the next video. Have a fantastic day.